Welcome back to Judy's Keto Kitchen, Keto Naturopath Kitchen. I have something really special today. I probably would not have made this if I were choosing what to make, but someone in our Facebook group posted a picture of a no-bake pumpkin pie and asked if I could make it keto. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. So I thought about it and I've come up with a recipe that's clean keto. But it does have dairy and it does have nuts, and we don't normally eat dairy or nuts, so if someone hadn't asked for this, I probably wouldn't have done it. But here it is. First off, I'll make the crust layer, which I have in here 35 grams of pecans and 35 grams of walnuts. You could just use 70 grams of whatever nut flour you want, almond, pecan, walnut, whatever. And then I have 1.5 tablespoons of melted butter. So we're going to pour that in. Did I tell you this wasn't dairy free? So we're going to make flour out of this. That looks pretty good. It's still a little chunky, but that'll add some texture to the pie. I've never made this before. This is my first time making it, so after we make it, if there are adjustments that are needed, I will make them in the recipe. So we have a pie plate here. I'm thinking this may not be enough because it's still chunky. A flour might be better, but let's see. And I don't want a thick layer. And this is a 9-inch pie plate, so maybe it would be great for a 8-inch pie plate. So this really is... It's a very thin layer, so I would probably double the amount of nuts. So if I were to do this again, I would probably do at least 50 grams of nuts each one, so about 100 grams. This will probably work out fine, but it's going to be a very thin layer. And I'm just doing the bottom. If you wanted to do the sides, you would definitely need more nuts. Now I'm going to pat this down with my fingers because, you know, I love to use my fingers and you can feel things so much better. So I'm going to put this in the refrigerator while I make the next layer. And the next layer is a cream cheese layer. And I'm going to use heavy whipping cream. Did I mention this is not dairy free? So first I'm going to have 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. Yes, I know this is 1/4 cup that you measure dry ingredients with, but I'm using it. I know that. I know the difference. I just chose to do what I want. Then you're going to have 1 teaspoon of vanilla and 2 teaspoons, and I would use xylitol, or you could use any sweetener you want. Doesn't matter. But instead, I'm going to use French vanilla better stevia. It has the vanilla and the sweeteners in it. And I'm almost out of my better stevia French vanilla. I'm all out of my English toffee. So I will be making a Wellevate order for these sweeteners because I just can't live without them. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to whip this up slightly. And then I'm going to add my softened cream cheese and whip that up. So it's just starting to whip up. You know, as I said, I'm not trying to make whipped cream out of it. So now I will add the softened cream cheese and whip this all together. I'll take the crust out of the refrigerator and I will add the cream cheese layer and spread it over the crust. Since this is no bake, I tried to do everything that would not require cooking. Sometimes the pie crust is like, well, it's easier if you bake it a little, but this seems to be fine. So we're going to put this in the refrigerator while we make the pumpkin layer. What we're going to do for the pumpkin layer is 1/4 cup of heavy cream again. I'm going to put the heavy cream back in the refrigerator because I want it cream cold when I make the whipped cream. a teaspoon of pumpkin spice. I make my own pumpkin spice. I will link to how I make it. It is so much better than store-bought. I have 2 tablespoons of xylitol, but once again, I'm going to use for this one, Better Stevia Vanilla. And there goes this Better Stevia. That's done. And also a teaspoon of gelatin. I'm not only using a teaspoon because I don't want it to be like Jell-O. I just want it to firm it up a little bit. So first, everything's falling. First, I'm going to whip the whipped cream again. Not to make it whipped cream, just to get everything incorporated. To that, I'm adding a cup of pumpkin puree. As I've mentioned in my other pumpkin videos, I've had a hard time finding pumpkin this year. I had to buy a big can of it, and this is the last of that big can. It's very expensive this year for some reason. Why? I don't know. Everything's very expensive this year. Ignore that loud noise. It's my cats fighting in the laundry room. Take the cream cheese layer out, and now I'll layer the pumpkin layer. Ooh, that's the original recipe that I took this off of, and I had to go searching the internet for no-bake pumpkin pie, and it was a graham cracker crust on the bottom, and this layer was mixed with the pumpkin layer actually had instant pudding. And I'm like, how do you substitute instant pudding? So that's why we have the heavy cream and the gelatin. Now at this point, you have 2 options. You could refrigerate this and then make the whipped cream topping just before you serve. Or if you're going to serve this in like 3 or 4 hours or the same day, you can actually make the whipped cream topping now and put it in the refrigerator. So I'm going to do the whipped cream. At first I thought, well, I'm not going to do the whipped cream topping now. And then I thought, well, it would probably be good to show you what it looks like with the whipped cream made a couple of hours ahead of time. Always know that if it doesn't come out great, then make your whipped cream just before serving. But, you know, if you're having guests and you're having a party, you want to make this ahead of time. The good news about this is you make this ahead of time and then just bring it out to serve. So we're going to put this in the refrigerator while I make the whipped cream topping. I'm going to clean up my beaters and my hands, and we will be back when I make the whipped cream. So I have all my utensils cleaned up. I'm going to make the whipped cream. Whipped cream is very easy to make. I don't have good luck making coconut whipped cream without my little dispenser. And if you've seen my apple crisp video, you've seen I did have a big disaster using that, but it's the only time that's ever happened. You can also do it with heavy cream, but whipped cream is so easy to make that I don't use that for regular whipped cream. So you have a cold bowl, and normally I put the beaters in the refrigerator with the bowl, but I'm making this right after I'm making the other parts of the pie, so the beaters are not cold. So I'm going to do a half a cup of heavy whipping cream and about a half a teaspoon of vanilla. This is the vanilla that I made. I made it with vodka and vanilla beans. It took over a year to become vanilla extract. So I'm just going to put a little vanilla in it. I do not use sweetener in my whipped cream. I don't like things very sweet, and I don't have whipped cream that often. Now you whip this on high till it becomes whipped cream. See how easy that is? And when I was younger, I used to use Cool Whip. Cool Whip, I'm not even sure it has any dairy in it. I know it's like all chemicals. So we'll now put the whipped cream layer Now you can adjust this if you like. I don't particularly like whipped cream that much, but if you want more, you can make more whipped cream. You might try making it with 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream. This is a very thin layer. I might actually make a little more. You also have to be careful in making whipped cream that you don't whip it too much that it becomes butter. So just when it looks like it's getting a little dry and not liquidy, and the bowl has to be cold. So now this is going to go in the refrigerator for about 3 hours. I want to make sure the pumpkin layer is all set up and ready to cut into. So I will see you back in about 3 hours and we'll taste this. Well, the no-bake pumpkin pie has been in the refrigerator for 3 hours. I'm going to take it out and we're going to test it. So you can see the layers, but I already know the layers are not thick enough. So I will adjust the recipe to make the layers thicker. But let's try it to see what it tastes like. The taste is really good. As I mentioned before, I'm not a big whipped cream fan, but let me just taste the pumpkin layer. So I think all the layers could be doubled. I took this from a recipe that made 2 pies, so I cut some of the ingredients in half to just make 1 pie, but I think I shouldn't have. I think both the cream cheese layer and the pumpkin layer need to be thicker, but it tastes really good. Hope you enjoy it.